Morning, everybody. How are we doing today?
Hi, good morning. Good.
Good morning, we're good.
That's good. That's good. So, any good news to share with me this week?
I attended, this is Simone speaking. I don't know if you're able to see my name, but I attended a Rotaract meeting via Zoom last week, Monday. Or was that this week? When was that? Oh, yeah, it had to be this week, Monday, yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. And how was it? What was the topic?
So it was my first time attending a Rotaract meeting. For some time, I said that I would visit one of the clubs, but never got around to it. But they had a past speaker, one of the founding members, actually, one of the founding members and president. She spoke on how the club was formed and the benefits of being a part of the founding, or being one of the founding members, and how networking plays such a vital role, and how it helped her to progress within her career. So I thought it was good to hear from someone who actually contributed to the club being established. So it was good to hear about that. And it was actually membership month. So yeah, I think that that was a good meeting for me to attend to see if that organization will be one that I would consider joining in the future.
Okay, very good. Very good. I'm glad that you were inspired and you enjoyed it and you want to go back. And so, again, all of this is beneficial because, like she said, it helped her develop a corporate career. Who
Right.
would have known like a civic organization could assist you in that way? And again, like I said, that's where corporate Bahamas did. That's where they hang out on the weekends, um, share their ideas, keep everybody encouraged and network. So definitely, um, it's very beneficial to your career, and this is why I give the incentive. So you can go out there, and a lot of us, haven't been to school for a while, or we would have been keeping abreast with school, but just not networking outside of whatever happens 9 to 5.
That's
So
right.
you'll be surprised the 30 minutes or 1 hour that you spend once per week, how beneficial it will be to you. So excellent, Simone. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
Yes, I also attended the same meeting. This is Antia, and it was very informative. The speaker was Francesca Melis. She was a past chapter president, and she basically talked about the history of Rotaract and how she got started in it. She started with a group of friends, and they just basically wanted to come together to do something fun and also give back to the community. Um, she she recommends Rotary for persons who want to participate and give back to their community. So overall, it was a very informative meeting. I enjoyed it very much. So if anybody wants to join Rotary, I think it'll be a good idea, especially if you want to get into networking. So,
Okay, what about you? I didn't hear you say you going back. Are you going back?
yeah, I probably would. Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, good. Very good. All right. So I wrote down Simone and Thea. Anybody else? Because next week is only review class. So everybody else has their 5%, or we don't need it. Let me know.
Good morning, this is Saida. Last week, Wednesday, I went to the Visionaries Toastmaster meeting. I can't remember the topic. They had like four different speakers. I could remember two of the speakers' topics. I think one was on conspiracy theories and the other one was on vision. Uh, that was my first Toastmasters meeting, and it was different. I liked how they like how they had their service, the outline of the meeting. There was one point when they corrected like the different people that participated in the meeting on their grammar and stuff, and I thought that was very interesting. I was supposed to go back this week, but I didn't get a chance to. I may go to a future meeting.
Okay. And what was the word for the day?
The word for the day was luxuriousness, I believe it was. It was the Visionaires Toast Group. It was it was, yeah, I think it was luxuriousness.
Okay. And what that mean? You have to tell us what that means.
I can't remember, that was last week.
What is it?
They had,
Luxuriousness?
yes, they had
Okay.
to.
Google it, and let us know what it means.
Okay, 1 minute.
While she is doing that, the rest of us, we've been reading the newspaper. Did anybody have a chance to peruse the newsletter that I sent? Zalika, did you have time to go over the newsletter? Anybody? Zalika, Shandika, Nikita, Martika, anybody read the newsletter? No?
I
I saw
go on. Sorry.
I saw it, but I didn't get to read it. I just read like the captions of the different sections of it. Didn't go into much detail for it.
Okay, good. So I sent that just so you would know, because I remember on the instruction sheet, I have to subscribe to Bahamas Services board, the central bank, the gaming board, whoever is your regulator. And so these are the type of things that you get when you subscribe to these places. Tobacco, BACO is the Bahamas Association of Compliance Officers, and so if you plan to go further on in the program, by all means, there's a student application, and so I encourage you all to join BACO as a student, and as you go through the program, then you graduate and become an associate or a fellow. It just depends on how far you want to go. but these are very good support groups. This is where you get all your information from. This is where, um, in terms of compliance initiatives or any help or assistance that you would need, this is where you would go, to associate with other like-minded persons and compliance officers. So there is an application and a fee. Normally, that fee is paid by your institution. So normally institutions pay like at least 2 memberships for the year, and it's not expensive. It's 200 per year. And so I encourage all of you to join BACO, okay, and stay abreast and current of what's happening in the industry. Okay, and those newsletters, like I said, when you go on those websites and you subscribe, they just come to your inbox, and you are abreast of what's going on in the industry. And a lot of times it's important for compliance because the CEOs or the top executives each morning, these are the type of things that they come to discuss. So you don't want them to come to you every morning and say, did you see that we were blacklisted, or did you see that this change was made, and you have no clue, right? And so every day you won't have the opportunity to read the newspaper, but this is a good avenue. At least you will have hands-on information. And again, central bank did, when they came in and they did their on-site visit with us, they did ask us to prove to them that we disseminated relevant information to the staff members. And so what I had to do is go and print my emails that showed central bank's publications that I had shared via email. And so that's actually a test that they do. So just so you would know. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. That's Samoan. She's back.
Oh yeah, I was just on to say that I didn't get to go through the entire thing, but just the short bit where the CEO and executive director for the Bahamas Financial Services Board, Tanya McCartney, was just speaking to the financial services industry and I guess what we're dealing with in the midst of COVID-19, and saying that despite it all, the industry has been resilient and they're working past all of the hurdles. And I think she did speak about what we talked about previously in class, about the fact that, we'd been promised by the FATF, to come back and to do the evaluation, but, they didn't do that. And here it is that we've been, I guess, looked down
by
on.
the European Union.
Right. So she was just speaking about that as well, saying that, it's unfortunate, and kind of reiterating what you were saying, that, oh, I'm sorry if you could hear my horn. I'm sitting outside. I mean, he had a horn in my neighborhood. I'm sitting outside. But the fact that no matter what we do, we're always kind of, treated like the stepchild. So yeah, that's the only bit of the newsletter that I was able to go through.
Okay, and you said you had this discussion with somebody, right, with your CEO?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
No, you say you were speaking to somebody on the issue, or no?
No, I'm saying that's the part of the newsletter that I read.
Okay,
yes, good. McCartney, is the CEO.
Yeah. Right. Okay, very good. Okay, was it Sadia, you back with your word yet?
Yes, ma'am. It's defined as great wealth.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, it's defined. Luxuriousness is defined as wealth evidenced by sumptuous living, opulence, wealthiness.
Okay, so good. I don't know if you're familiar with the word, but I like it, luxuriousness.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. And that's what I like about Toastmasters. You normally get a new word each week that you can add to your repertoire. So very good, and you meet very, very good people. So what was one of the table topics? Did they have table topics?
Yes, one of the table topics was, I believe it's on rum, and I guess the person had to present.
So you went out again. I didn't hear you.
I didn't go out on Wednesday. I was there last week, Wednesday. Another one of the table topics was on conspiracy theories and I guess the meaning behind them. I
Okay.
can't remember the other two because they weren't as interesting. It was only the first and the last one.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Glad you attended. Okay, anybody else read the newspaper? Anything to share with the class this week? Anybody who does not have their 10% and I don't know their name?
I read got an article from the Guardian where it was talking about the report that was prepared for the IMF executive board back in June 1st. And the whole point of the report was to, I guess, to bring down the debt here in Nassau, to bring it down to a low. I mean, just to bring it down because, you know, the economy is in a good place right now, and to achieve a long-term target for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And the IMF responded back where they mentioned there was something in place for Dorian. And now that the COVID is here, they see where there is some room for monetary easing. And they also stated that they also gave some steps that should be taken to enhance the resilience of the natural disasters by putting in place mandatory for hurricane insurance, introducing mandatory insurance that would strengthen the private sector and improving data collection, as well as sharing and managing the agency. And also they point out that there was approval for 252 million that was approved for the Bahamas.
Okay. Okay, very good, very good. So not only did they, encourage us to put us in place in the onset, but now they came back, did a review, and they are still encouraging us to do more and saying that perhaps we need something similar, I guess, for this pandemic. So very good that you're keeping abreast. Okay, good. And guess what? That for your final exam, I sent out the review sheet, and if you look at the review sheet, there's a question there on disaster recovery and the IMF. So that's very relevant, and that's something that you can add. So if you look on the review sheet, a lot of the topics say research required. So make sure when you go online and you get your research, you can say confidently, according to the Nassau Guardian, and you don't have to quote the data or what have you, but the IMF, did come back and did a review or they suggested this or that. Okay, and so everybody, was there anybody who didn't get the review sheet? And the review class is next week, and so I want you to come prepared. Again, it's supposed to be a discussion, and this is our last class, so of course hopefully we don't have to read. I have some slides, but hopefully we don't have to read too much, and we can have a discussion about the court orders, and then the other the last chapter about the rules of the board and what have you. But again, the chapters are very small, so if we have to read, there's no issue. But did anybody start to fill out um the review sheet as yet?
Yes, I started.
Okay, so did you get, Anthea, the section on court orders yet? Are you there? That's so this is a good time, so we don't have to go in depth next week on court orders or rules. Did you get to that section as yet or no?
No, ma'am, I didn't reach that far.
No, you didn't reach that far. Okay, good. Well, that's fine. Okay, so court orders, chapter 8. Again, rather than there are some definitions. In my experience, I would say I may have filed um 50 to 100 STRs throughout my career, probably 8, 9 years in compliance, but I worked this the Royal Bank for about 16 years. And so these various court orders orders, they were, again, remember the laws came out in 2000. POCA was established, the Proceeds of Crime Act. This is where you would find all these court orders and these penalties and these fines. And after POCA was established for a very long time, we did not have anybody brought before the courts. So I attended a seminar at the central bank where the CFATF was in, and they had said, looking at your history, Bahamians must be law-abiding citizens because nobody has been brought before the courts. Nobody has been charged with money laundering, terrorist financing, and the law. And so, therefore, this would have been, I would say, 216-ish, 217-ish. And of course, the mutual evaluation was done in 2017, and we found out that the laws again didn't have sufficient meat, because of course we are very familiar with Wayne Monroe, who sues in court, suing somebody every day voluntarily. You don't even have to pay him anymore, he'll just represent you. And then of course some of us have that big money and we could get the seal. And so we know once we get to seal, we that in the bucket, right? He go win that on a technicality. And so basically when they did their review, they found that the laws were not sufficient to send anybody to jail. And so there were lots of cases in the FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit. And I spoke to somebody who was in my class at the time, saying that she was in my class because they're doing a revamp of all the cases and making sure they bring these people before the courts. Now, I don't want to go further into that story because the year after, when somebody else from the FIU was in my class and I mentioned that, they say, how dare you say that, Miss Bullitt? You don't have any proof or evidence. So I don't want to repeat that any further. I don't want to repeat that story any further. So therefore, what happened in 2018, they beefed up the laws. What used to happen in the past was that persons were just being charged with fraud or stealing by reason of employment, or I guess thieving. I don't know if thieving is one of the crimes, but yeah, stealing by reason or stealing, sorry, or and what they did in or the FATF had suggested was that 21 crimes fall under money laundering. So I don't have a legal background. Perhaps somebody with a legal background, if you wish, would want to explain this. But what used to happen in the past is a lot of people got charged with fraud, and they say perhaps get 2 or 3 years. However, money laundering should carry a more hefty fine. And I don't know if it was just that they didn't want to be bothered, or the laws, again, did not have sufficient meat to hold these persons. So therefore, they just said, oh, charge them with fraud, charge them with stealing, especially when you're working in the financial services sector in the banks. I know there were loads of staff members that were brought before the courts for stealing by reason of employment. But again, the bank does not like the negative publicity, and so therefore, nobody ever showed up to the court after that first embarrassment going through up to the courts. You never saw that person again. They were just fired and let go. And so the bank felt that there was too much reputational risk with every week, employees in the papers for stealing, and so there may be a bank run because people may say, well, all the staff at the Royal Bank is thief, so let's not put our money there. And so therefore, again, a lot of persons just got a slap on the wrist. Take, for instance, this guy today who would have robbed the ATMs at CIBC. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the case, but every weekend, all the CIBC ATMs used to be down. If you wanted to cash, you would have to go to CIBC Shirley Street to get cash, or downtown were the only ATMs that were up. Almost every weekend, every other ATM was down. And so I imagine CIBC would have gotten loads of complaints, because I complained. I said, what is going on? if persons get paid on a Friday and their money is at CI, you only could go to downtown. And sometimes on a Saturday there was a lineup. And so I think from the number of complaints, they did an investigation and they found out that the supervisor along with the ATM technician was stealing the money. You're familiar with that case?
No, no,
I'm
I
not
think I,
familiar with that.
I heard about it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So that was in, say, let's say February, just before the pandemic. Do you know that that technician went back because some of the hotels that have been locked down, like Breezes has an ATM as well, and he went back and stole like $10,000 more. So already out on bail, goes back and steals $10,000 more from um the
Scotiabank.
from the CIBC Breezes location, the ATM at Breezes. And so, I'm amazed, but earlier in the onset, their first charges were not only stealing by reason of employment, but also they were charged with money laundering. And so the laws have been changed or updated to encompass that. There are 21 crimes that fall under money laundering. So, of course, stealing, bribery, terrorism, tax evasion, drug trafficking, human trafficking, smuggling. And so, how the law works, they may say you have 4 or 5 charges against you, but one of those charges will be stealing. The next one will probably be bribery, and then let's say money laundering, which should carry the higher penalty or higher fine or jail time. Okay, and so that's what they did. And so now, when you see persons being, or from 2000 and say 17, you see persons being brought before the courts, and they have numerous charges. Michelle Reckley, for example, she was, to me, the first person that was charged um, for money laundering. Now, immediately the attorney general came out and said, sometime in 2017 to 18, oh, we have 84 persons charged with money laundering. I was teaching this class before that, and I didn't know of any, and I attended that seminar, but he has subsequently come out and said that they have 84 persons being charged. So the lady from the FIU did tell me that they were working weekends to go through those cases and bring them back before the courts to make sure they were properly categorized and those persons were charged. And so again, in the laws, they put the meeting in 2018. So from then, almost everybody being brought before the courts will not only be stealing but also money laundering. Have you seen that? Even the drug traffickers, they say drug trafficking as well as money laundering. Have you all noticed the change?
Yes, I've seen the change.
Great, great. Okay, so somebody know, one person know what I'm talking about. Okay, Mackenzie, good, very good. And so, again, we want to be seen internationally as we are law abiding, that everybody just doesn't get a slap on the wrist. And so, urban renewal was established under the PLP government. They were responsible, I think, after Hurricane Matthew. They got loads of money to put back into the economy in Freeport and Nassau for persons whose homes were damaged. And so there were loads of complaints over the news where person said the contractor never finished, did very shoddy work and still was paid, or just never finished and still was paid. And so hence they did an investigation and they saw that I think Michelle Reckley out of Freeport was charged with, she again was a government employee. Again, you should not expect, whatever her salary is, an account was set up for salary, you should not expect more than what her salary is. So let's just say she is $2,000 to $3,000 a month in salary. Her profile should have said this account is for salary. I don't expect more than 3 withdrawals or deposits, and for a certain amount, $2,000 to $3,000. And so she for some reason was able to transfer between the Teachers Credit Union and CIBC $1.3 million. And after they investigated, they found out that this was the government funds, and she had misused it. Instead of, buying supplies, um, purchasing, or paying contractors and ensuring that work was completed, she instead had the money in her personal accounts. And so therefore she was brought before the court. She originally had 54 charges. And so one deficiency in our court orders is the unexplained wealth order. And so she was the first one to be, as far as I'm aware, to be charged with the unexplained wealth order. So she originally started with 54 orders, 54 charges, but her lawyer was able to, get, I think she's now down to like some 30 charges, and 6 persons were arrested along with her. They were let go because at the time of the crime, the laws were not on this unexplained wealth order was not on our law books. So therefore, like I said, you see that the technicality, she was able to get out of most of those charges, and the 6 persons with her were able to be let go because at the time she committed the crime, it was not on the law books. And also some one or two of these orders say that they're not retroactive, meaning it was established as law in July 2018. If you did it before, then we can't go dig you up and say, hey, back in 2015 you did this and we didn't properly charge you. So that's the Michelle Reckley case. There's also a case before the courts with what's the person's name? Alma Campbell.
Elmo Campbell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Again, she's a PAP. I don't know if people considered Michelle Reckley a PAP at the time, but I'm sure they consider it now. And so Elma Campbell worked, defrauded the Ministry of Tourism. But again, we live in the Bahamas, and it depends on who you are, because Hassan had previously allegedly defrauded BBL. Okay, so you all know this story. It's good. Who just said that? Okay, we don't want to say who said yeah, because again, all of this was in the news, so we got to say allegedly, right? So he was already out on bail, just like this guy from CIBC with the ATMs, already out on bail, caught up in another conundrum, but again, getting a second bail. So I'm not certain how it is that you're on bail and you're getting a second bail. Now I know the jail is full. These are white collar crimes, and I guess they don't want to put you down to the Bahamas Correction Center with the hardened criminals. But I was told that just recently that there is a white, the FIU have established now a separate holding facility for persons who commit white collar crimes. And so I think, where Bethel Brothers Morticians is on Nassau Street, in that vicinity, there is a now holding cell for persons who are arrested by the FIU. But we want to ensure that we don't go to, and that holding cell is for all the MLROs who don't do what they are supposed to do. Okay, so make sure none of us never end up in that holding cell. Now,
Right.
that's it. Sorry, go ahead.
I had to cut it down.
You have to. Sadia? No? Okay.
Sorry, Miss Fuller. Sorry.
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
saying anything. Sorry.
Okay, fine. So the book talks about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types of orders, um, unexplained. Like I said, Michelle Reckley was not able to explain how she acquired $1.3 million off of her, $3,000 a month salary. She was not able to explain that. So they termed something like that an unexplained wealth order. What I have seen in the last years, after I would have filed an STR, suspicious transaction report, to the FIU, they would have come back with a production order. And a production order requires you to produce documents. So now, remember, we're required to keep these documents for a minimum of how many years after closing? Right. If you're the central bank, if you're regulated by the central bank, if you're regulated by the Securities Commission, 7 years. If it's a gaming board, I think it's 7 years. But you would have to check depending on who your regulator is. And so these accounts would have been closed 3 years ago. What am I required to do if I get a production order? Produce documentation that I should have in the office or in offsite storage. I can't call them up and say, oh, that account been closed for 3 years. No, you will be charged with collusion and the institution will be fined. So you don't get that slap on the wrist and say, well, okay, fine, you don't have that information. So that production order asks you to produce documents to the FIU, and normally it's a wire transaction. It's a history from the inception of the account, as well as any KYC you would have used to um, open up the account. Okay, so that's production, and that's the only one I've seen so far. If you go on to intermediate, there's a section in the book where they talk about working with the authorities, and that's another one that I've seen come into the bank, the disclosure order, where one day the police just shows up to the company to arrest one of my coworkers. But like I say, I've saved that for intermediate. And so that's where they asked us to disclose information, and they bought that order with us. Okay. Then there are restraints orders, seizure orders, and monitoring orders. Now, what they have changed with these seizure orders is that if you are charged and back in the day, we were famous for putting all these luxurious things. We have 10 houses. We put those in our mother's names or our girlfriends, boyfriends' names or cousins' names, and then or cars or what have you. And so what the law has been expanded to now is that there's no longer, if Michelle Reckley say, well, these assets don't belong with me. Yeah, y'all have the $1.3 million in the bank. Y'all could have that. However, this house and this car, this in my mommy name, then they are going to investigate the mother. And the law has expanded now to repossess or seize all items from the mother, the cousin, anybody closely related who cannot explain how they generated the wealth to be able to purchase these luxurious items. Okay? Okay, so in a nutshell, that's the court orders. And I do have some slides that I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to have a reader, somebody who does not have their 10% at this point, and or even Mackenzie, you have your 10%, but because of your legal background, there are some words in here. Perhaps you can, relate them properly. I don't know if you mind.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so we are going to start with slide 19. Any questions so far? Is this clear? I don't like to be talking with no feedback, and persons are sitting there and saying, Miss Bullet, just rambling. We don't even know what she's saying. Y'all know what I'm talking about? This makes sense? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just check in. Not you, Mackenzie. This should make a lot of sense to you. But what about you, Yolande? Yolande, you understand the story that I told? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I said, yes, you're clear.
Okay, good. I just double checking to make sure we all, can relay this in an essay and give an example. So we know, of course, this is going to be on the exam. We don't want just a definition of what the order is. You can talk about a part of it. You could explain production is to produce, documentation. But then you want to go, for example, Michelle Reckley, for example, was charged with the unexplained wealth order, or Elmer Campbell, and you could read the newspaper to see, sometimes they're not forthcoming with what type of order they handed out. Because I went back and forth with who was it? What's the guy's name from Life Key? Nygaard. Nygaard. Anybody familiar with the Nygaard case?
There are so many. Which one?
Yeah.
Right. And so I was trying to go through it to find out exactly what they would have sent. At one point they went out there and they locked his gate, and so he couldn't access it because he was allegedly on the run. And so I found that he was on the run. He'd been in and out of court proceedings from 1970, and so
Mm-hmm.
he's a known criminal. Some of us wasn't born in 1970, and I say, my God, how is it that you can evade the police, evade the law for 40 or 50 years?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still not in jail to this day. So it's amazing. And again, networking and who you know. And I mean, this is not what you want to use your network for, but I'm just saying, when you have money and you network, this is for 50 years, you just commit crimes and get away with it. But we are
Mm-hmm.
not going to do that, of course. Okay, good. Okay, so Mackenzie, go ahead. Restraint order.
Okay, restraint order, subsections 24 and 25. The court can make an order even when the persons have not been convicted of an offense. That A, he committed an offense and is under an investigation or has been charged. B, he has an interest in the property and the property can be subject to an application. C, that the property cannot be disposed of and it can be seized or a receiver can manage it. A receiver has very wide powers in dealing with the subject property, including this to sell it, but the court can make orders to guide the receiver. Within 2 days after the restraint order is made, the enforcement authority should give notice to affected persons.
Yeah. So I would imagine they went out to Nygad's property and they put a big lock on the door because he did not um um show up in court. So I'm not certain if that would you know, Mackenzie, and this is why you need a lawyer in your network because the law isn't in layman's terms. Would you know if it was restrict
Well,
or
in
seizure?
terms of in terms of the lock, they did intend doing that, but Nygod, he had all of the attorneys and all of that, who a lot of technical points.
Right.
I know on the last occasion he was in Canada
Okay.
and he needed to show up to court continually. So there were several bench warrants that were issued for him, but they indicated that he had some health issues and so on and so forth. But they already indicated if he comes back to Nassau, he'll be arrested on site. I don't know how true that is, but that is the
After
court's
evading them for
plan.
50 years, after that, we are
Hmm.
finally, when he is 80, we can lock him up and he's in a
Yeah,
wheelchair. Then the prison could can't accommodate nobody in a wheelchair.
no. But since
Okay,
since maybe the 90s, human trafficking, all sort of charges were against him, laid against him. So I don't even know what took place or why he hasn't been arrested.
that's it. Because of who you know and the mighty dollar. That's my
Yep.
5 cents. My 5. Okay, go ahead. Seizure
Okay,
order.
seizure orders, section 30. On application by an authorized officer, the court may make an order for the enforcement authority to search and seize property, including to enter by force and seize any items which may serve as evidence or which may likely have been subject to a restraint order.
And so I don't know if you all remember the store Robin Hood on Prince Charles, the big shopping center. There used to be one on Mario's property on the highway and then one on
Highway, yeah,
Prince
Harrow
Charles.
Road, yeah.
Right. And so at one point, they had been accused of defrauding customs, bringing in their groceries and not paying any duties. And so customs had issued an order and they went in there and they seized all the computers, all of the, I guess, cash registers or what have you to do an audit on it to find out if you have this amount of inventory and you brought it into the country, they wanted to compare it to what they had paid at customs. And so that was a big thing. And I think right after that, Robinhood had even closed because they didn't get all of their information back. Because again, these court cases take 5 and 6 years sometimes. And so imagine your computer systems or your data being held by the police. How are you going to operate your store? So again, that was politically inclined, and there was a lot of stories surrounding it. But just so you know, these when or who these type of things happen to, and again, that may be in the newspaper. You may be able to read up on that if you want to use that in your essay. It's going to be a compare and contrast type of situation. So that'll be a good one. Again, this is the newest one on the blocks. Everybody's getting unexplained wealth again because where all of a sudden do you get this money from off your government salary? Okay, go ahead, unexplained well.
Okay, sections 75 and 76. This applies to inter alia, the following: a politically exposed person, a public office holder, a person convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment, a person who receives property or gifts from criminal activities, persons who have been charged with crimes such as bribery, extortion, or misconduct in public office, falsification of accounts, stealing by reason of service or employment, money laundering, fraud, drug, human, or firearms trafficking. Enforcement authority may apply to a court requiring a person to file a declaration of their assets. This enforcement authority's application must have an affidavit which identifies the person, state the suspicion that the person's total wealth exceeds the value of their legitimately obtained wealth, and identifies the property that is believed to be illegally obtained. The court may make a preliminary unexplained wealth order and require the affected person to appear and explain why the court should not make the order absolute.
Okay, what's some more? What questions do you have coming out of this unexplained wealth order? What questions did you have from McKinsey?
Questions do I have?
You don't have no question from McKinsey.
No, I
You
wouldn't.
understand this entirely? No? What about inter alia? Will you know what that means? Am I pronouncing it correct, McKinsey?
Inter alia.
Yeah. Okay, what you know what that means, Samoa?
No, ma'am. At one point I Googled it, but by now I've forgotten it, so I don't.
Oh, okay, good. I guess what I didn't want anybody to sit there and not say, excuse me. Okay, good that you Googled, but can you give us a brief explanation, McKinsey?
Inter alia is basically let me see if I could explain it. Inclusive of. That's the basic meaning of it.
Okay. So can you
So it's
give us an
inclusive
example?
of. Okay, so if you are naming, for instance, how they have politically exposed persons, public office, and all of that. So it's just telling you that these are the subsets or the set of individuals, or who would apply to.
Okay, good. Makita, we understand that. Everybody, we understand that. Zalika?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, good. And so if we see a word that we're not, it could just be me. That's not a word that I use every day. And I know it's a legal term that we want to ensure that we either Google or we know exactly what it means. We don't want to just say, okay, I don't know that part of the question, because again, you have to explain this in the essay, and pretty much everybody jumps to the unexplained wealth order for the exam. Very easy question to answer. Everybody knows the Michelle Reckley case. They know that out of their head, where we would have spoken about it so much in the classes. So very easy question to answer. Okay, so make sure you understand all parts of it. Okay, investigative orders.
Okay, section 83 and 84, it is not retroactive. The court can order financial institution to disclose customer information, including that of a company, to an authorized person. Customer information is related to whether a person has a bank account, the identifying information of the person, and any joint account holder account numbers. Financial institutions such as banks, insurance companies, investment firms, check washing, or Western Union type businesses. The financial institution commits an offense if it fails to comply with the order, provides false information, or tells unauthorized persons about its existence. Monitoring order, section 85. This is an order by the court to a financial institution to disclose transactions on an account. Lasts for 3 months, but can be extended for another 3 months. It should specify what type of transactions should be disclosed. So it is not every transaction on the account. The financial institution commits an offense if it fails to comply with the order, provides false information, or tells unauthorized persons about its existence. Disclosure order, section 86. This is an order that allows the authorized persons to give notice to any to anyone to answer questions, provide information, or produce documents at a specified time or place. A disclosure order cannot compel a person to disclose something subject to legal privilege. A person commits an offense if he
We
fails
all
to
know what
comply.
legal.
Could
Sorry,
you?
go ahead. I'll ask after you finish.
Okay,
No, I'll wait till you're done. Go ahead.
a person commits an offense if he fails to comply with the order, provides false information, or tells unauthorized persons about its existence.
Okay. Any questions out of this? Yulan, what is legal privilege?
I am assuming, okay, so I'm guessing because of this order, it's certain things that they're unable to say.
Okay. Okay. Delisa, is that how you explain legal privilege?
To some extent, it's basically the privilege that exists between an attorney and his client. So he cannot, he has a duty to his client not to disclose whatever information is given to him or her.
So how is that proven? Like, how do you say, oh, I'm not allowed to share because that is legal privilege?
That is standard. That is standard. Once there's a contractual agreement between an attorney and the customer or the client, that raises legal privilege. So an attorney cannot be compelled to produce that evidence in court.
Okay.
Now you have the prosecution who sometimes they would make their investigations, but that privilege still exists nonetheless.
And once the prosecution would have investigated and have that information, they produce it to the court. Does the lawyer say or the attorney say, no, I'm sorry, that's legal privilege, or it's only between, that means it can't be discussed at all, or the prosecution is able to bring it to the table themselves?
It cannot be discussed at all. Now, at the commencement of a trial, there is a duty to disclose by the prosecution, but there's not a duty to disclose by defense counsel. So if something is raised and it does form a part of a legal privilege, then they can indicate that, you know, there's a privilege existing with this bit of information.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, and our last one, and I have a question when you're done.
Okay, production order, section 87, application supported by affidavit, ex parte before a magistrate's court. Court orders a person who has possession or control of a document showing location of relevant property to disclose it. If document is on computer, it must be converted to printed form. The authorized person can copy, inspect, or retain documents for a reasonable period. Restrictions: no right of entry to premises and not required to produce legally privileged items. For production of information restricted by the Banks and Trust Companies Regulation Act, the Central Bank Act, an application must be made to Supreme Court judge.
Okay, so my question is, in all my years, I have always gotten a production order directly from the FIU. Now, I know under the FIU Act, they have certain powers. Recently, in 2018, the FTRA, it confirmed that it trumped the Bank and Trust Companies Regulation Act and the Central Bank Act, that the FTRA, which gives, I think, the FIU its powers, trumps this Bank and Trust Act. So should I be accepting production orders directly from the FIU? Because of course, I'm a bank and we are bound by the Bank and Trust Companies Regulation Act, with that clause about confidentiality is what they're referring to. So are you aware? If you're not aware, it's fine.
No, I'm not aware. I don't want to ill advise on that. I'm not sure of that.
Right. And so I've sent a letter to the FIU because, again, this is how I feel like Wayne Monroe or Lucille can win on this technicality. You see what I mean? Because this is 1, 2, 3 laws that say different things. And so if the FTRA trumps all of them, then therefore when I can accept this production order from the FIU and I can disclose this information. But I'm wondering, when they do send this to us, do we say, can you show us the order from the Supreme Court? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I got what you're
So I
saying.
have put this right. I have put this with legal with my company and every other company, and everybody has come back and said, no, you are to cooperate. If you have a production order and it's from your FIU and you are registered, because that's another thing. After central bank would have approved you, or the Securities Commission approves the MLRO, you are to write a letter to the FIU and you are to register with them. If you don't register with them, when central bank comes in, they actually fine you for not registering with them. And once you would have registered, the FIU, along with the central bank or the Securities Commission, they say, you may work for this company, but I do not want your company's, I have your company email address and location and number. However, I need your personal email address. I need a phone number that I can call you in case of emergency. And I need directions to your house. I said, God, you're coming to lock me up in front of
I
my
see
neighbor.
it.
And I need something else, my home telephone number. And I said, well, you know, most people don't have home
Home
telephone
telephone.
numbers. They said,
Correct.
well, you need a second contact. Okay, so just know all of that is required. You once you would have registered, you then are required to. I mean, once you would have been approved, you are required. You have those approval letters. You are required to register with the FIU. But yeah, I'm still, like I said, legal has never given me a straight answer. They've always said, um, you know, comply, just comply, right? But I'm waiting on the response from the FIU just so I'm clear. But what I have read is that the FDRA gives them the powers, and that trumps the banks and trusts and the central bank and all of that. So we'll wait and see. Okay, very good. Any other questions? There's another funny word that we don't use every day.
He's got
Okay,
lots
go ahead.
Yeah, I think I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Ex parte.
Ex parte.
Yeah, I just wanted to know exactly what that meant. And
That means one party. So in a regular case, you would have two parties. You may have the plaintiff and defendant. So whoever's bringing the application, it will be them alone going before the court.
oh, okay, thank you.
I have
Okay,
a question.
great. Go ahead.
Okay, if we could go back to restraint orders. I'm looking in the book. I'm seeing a brief section on freezing orders, which is section 51. I'm trying to figure out, that's an order all on its own, or does that go hand in hand with something
Yeah,
else?
so again, okay, so with I got these slides, everything that's the Proceeds of Crime Act is about 125 pages, right? I felt that these slides explain it better than the book, because this book is taken directly from the law. The law isn't in layman's terms. You need a lawyer to, interpret like instrumentalities and forfeitures and all these things. So this is why I went this way. But the freezing order is back in the book, but not on these slides. So that's fine. I didn't intend to cover all of them, but if you have a question on the freezing order, sure, go ahead.
Actually, it's pretty straightforward in the book because it's very brief.
Oh,
But
okay,
I wanted
good.
to see the slide for the restraint order. Sorry for the
For the restraint? Okay.
restraint and seizure because I'm still writing something.
Okay, sure. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. You good now?
Yes.
Okay.
And seizure.
And seizure?
What's
Okay.
the section for seizure? The subsection.
30.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right. And so I use and Delisa, thank you very much for sharing with us and answering the questions. But I use this so persons with no when you go into compliance, your institution, depending on the size, may ask you to wear many hats. If they don't have legal, they expect you to be legal. If they don't have a corporate secretary or corporate administrator, they expect you to be that corporate administrator. If they don't have a risk manager, they expect you to be a risk manager. What else falls under compliance? And then even with compliance, it's split into AML and it's split into compliance. AML will be account opening, watching all of the triggers and the events in the background, doing reviews. Um, Compliance will be dealing with the regulator, dealing with policy and procedures. But a lot of times persons feel or institutions don't want to pay for 5 or 6 hats. As you go on to intermediate, you would learn that if you have a small institution with say 100 clients or less, you can wear these hats if you know how to do these various different jobs. But if you don't know, I don't have a legal background, so I have a few lawyers in my network that I liaise with, and I try to assist them and they try to assist me. But this is the importance of building your network, because institutions really expect you to know all these things, and there's no way, over the years after you would have had experience, then you learn. Because again, a few years ago I knew nothing about writing board resolutions, incorporating companies, doing all of that. And because the corporate secretary left and they never replaced her, guess who it fell on? Almost everything in the institution falls on compliance. And so a lot of people, I actually went into one of the major banks. And I think I told you this story where before we started the audit, we said, who's your corporate secretary, who's your compliance, who's regulatory, who is AML, and they all 5 hats. They pointed to one person. We said, okay, we're sorry, until this person's job is properly delegated and properly segregated, if until there's a proper segregation of duties, we cannot continue this audit. So I just want you to be aware of going into an institution, or even when you look at ads in the newspaper and you see they want you to be corporate secretary, risk, compliance, AML, and legal, be very wary of those types of positions. And if you want a challenge and you go for it, you ask them, how many clients do you have and how many do you expect to have? And if they say, well, we only have 50 clients now, as the bank grows or the institution grows, which you expect it to do, then you need to write a letter to them and say, listen, this is no longer a one-man band. Okay, it is not safe. You will be overworked and confused and unorganized, and there's no way you can carry out all those tasks if the company grows. And so you have to push. And remember now, compliance makes no money at all for the bank, and so therefore they only invest in sales and marketing and what have you. And so it is very hard for compliance officers to convince them that, hey, this needs to be a department, we need help. It can't be one senior person and I have all this power and then I just have an assistant. No, you have to be knowledgeable about it, or you will find yourself getting into a lot of problems. There's no way, and then like I said, I always tell them I do not have a legal background, and they bring all legal questions. I'm not a lawyer. I constantly have to say I'm not a lawyer, but then they you know try to say that you're not you don't want to take on any other tasks, or you don't want to assist in any other way. And a lot of times I say, okay, I have this person in my network, I can introduce them to you, and this is how much they charge per hour. Or I do get like 1 or 2 pieces of information, and then I say, okay, I share it with them. But just be cognizant and be very careful of taking on too many hats, especially the ones that you're not qualified for. And so I have said so many times, I'm not a lawyer. In my old institution, they said, okay, we're gonna send you to legal school. I said, oh, no, you won't. No, you won't. But I mean, of course, I'm past the stage right now to go and take on another degree. But if you are entry level, or if you only have the first degree and you haven't been, by all means, if the company is going to pay, take that opportunity. Okay. But I just want to ensure that you know what responsibilities that you are taking on, you're not overwhelmed, and you are organized, and you have sufficient information. Because I mean, I'm to a point where I'm finished with school, but I don't miss opportunities. And so if there's an opportunity where they are going to pay, and it's not where I have to go get a whole law degree, if something else like the corporate governance, I went to some training so I can know how to, incorporate companies and stuff like that. So just have the awareness, and know what you're getting into. And also don't get into that situation on dirty money where the company is about it to be fined or in trouble, and they know that you're not qualified, and so they give you an office with a cell phone, with a car, all the incentives, and you're not able to perform the job. If you're not able to perform it when you get it, go out and get the training. If you're like me and not willing to go out and get the training, don't take the job. You will end up in jail. Okay. So I hope by now the rest of you would have watched Dirty Money, and gained some awareness. Anybody else watched it?
One of
No?
the thing,
Silence?
one of the one episode, the one on HSH, what is it, HSBC, right?
HSBC. Uh-huh.
Um, and I was just so shook because I didn't dream that a bank that's basically on the level that they're at could be involved with so much undercover dirty work for so many years. Basically, time after time, they just kind of say, oh, we see that you admitted to your wrong, and you say you're going to do better, so we'll roll with that. And then someone, I can't remember who it was in the government, the guy said that, oh, we're going to fine them for $1.9 billion, and then the employees or the board of directors, whomever, the high people in the bank, they're going to defer their bonuses. So it's like, well, we're not going to give them all of their money right now, but at some point they're going to get it. So I just really thought it was interesting to see that money, I mean, it was just confirmation that money talks, because nobody wanted to put anybody in jail, because at the end of the day, they're such a big bank. And if they'd done that, I think at the time, the economy wasn't doing the greatest, so it could have had ripple effects. So it was interesting to see how these banks are still in operation.
Right. And so this is why I let you watch it for awareness, because we get into these positions, people are not doing what they are supposed to do, and we take it to heart. It makes us sick, you know what I mean? Or we lose our jobs over it. So this is why I want you to watch these type of things, so you just have some awareness, so you know that you're not the only one out there. And these happen at big banks. Like I say, back in my day coming up, you got a job at HSBC, you was the creme de la creme, you was at a very highfalutin bank, and you held that in high regard. And so also when I watched that for the first time, I fell off my seat. I couldn't believe it. I was, but I was thankful that I watched it. And when these people come and try and intimidate me or manipulate me, I say, oh, I've seen worse, and I don't let it get to me. But the most important part is that you don't get caught in that compliance position where they know that you are unqualified. They don't give you the technology that you need to carry out your job. And, they are part of the system because somebody started a seminar with the Attorney General speaking on the fine of HSBC. And they said, we are going to fine them $1.9 billion. And everybody fell off their seats. Everybody's like, oh my God, our bank would totally, fall apart. But HSBC still, they closed down a couple of branches. And everybody thought that was so much money. You know why? Because we broke. We don't deal in the millions, much less the billions. So everybody was astounded. I was even astounded until I watched that and I said, oh my God, HSBC makes that type of money in 5 weeks.
Yep.
So that fine for them was a slap on the wrist. If I had gotten that fine, my 10 generations would have to pay that. But that was a slap on the wrist. So again, awareness, so you know what you're dealing with and you know how the industry works. Okay.
And also in that, I saw where in making their, when they were putting persons into the system, they were using the symbols like the period and dash when they were putting customers' names into the system so it wouldn't flag in the system. And I remember you speaking on that earlier on in the session.
Right, because that is very, very dangerous. Because what that means is that Ben Laden can be in your system and you will not get a flag. Everybody who you have blacklisted or who is blacklisted or sanctioned, none of that, you know, every day you doing a report and their names are not showing up because it's hyphenated. So do not take it for granted. A lot of operations departments, they take it, oh, that's just a dot, or we could never find this name in the system and we don't know why. Oh, it's a special way to put it in. No, no, no. In no special way. You have to make sure your operations department print out those reports and you check those names and those numbers and to make sure that they work. Don't talk about a system glitch because that's how they got away with it for years because people didn't pay attention to it. Another thing people don't pay attention to is when a relationship managers leave and they are no longer with you know what I mean, with the company. So you don't know who going to jail, you don't know who to hold responsible because the system, you never changed the name. And so you don't know that Miss Bullet worked here from 2007 or 2000 to 2007 to 2010, and at the time this crime was committed or these things happened, Miss Bullet was the relationship manager and she should be held accountable. You know what I mean? So don't take these little operational things for granted. And it's not that you compliance would go and do it yourself, but you insist. And this is what you do. Please ensure that all your you have a system report. It should come out monthly where all your names and your numbers correspond or correlate or what have you. And you just 1 month you take a look and you scan it and then you ask them to manually tell you how many accounts you have and then you look at it against the report. The report should have a number at the bottom. We have 300 accounts. You make sure manually they can account for 300 accounts. And so these are easy ways to do tests to make sure things are not slipping through the cracks. Because when you have a lot of customers, it's very hard. When I was at Royal, we had 800 customers, but every month operationally, I did my report to ensure that, you know, I knew what was happening because people are very, you know, slick and the spammers are very smart. They, you know, they come up with all sorts of stuff you'd never think of. So again, you cannot eliminate risks. Don't be on pins and toes. I don't go to work afraid every day, wondering happening. If you have policies and procedures in place and you are knowledgeable and you can explain, you won't go to jail. You won't smart as you are not as smart as these scammers. You going to work from 9 to 5, from 9 to 5. They plotting and planning, that's their job. So they invest a lot of time in research. And so therefore you cannot eliminate risk. You can only mitigate risk. You can only put policies and procedures in place and you can follow them and you can ensure that their staff members follow them and people still defraud the bank. Okay. But when something happens, if you cannot explain yourself, if you cannot say this is the policy, this is the control I had in place, this risk-based approach that again, if you go on the intermediate, we're going to talk about. If you don't know what the risk-based approach is, if you don't know the control in place, if you don't know how to explain that yes, this was a high risk, this was a high risk account, but we did proper enhanced due diligence by doing A, B, and C. If you cannot explain that then you are negligent. Then you go to jail. Then you get fired. Then you have a bad audit. But once you can explain yourself and say, I followed the procedure, I put the controls in place. However, they were still able to defraud the system because we didn't have that control in place, then you'll be okay. But a lot of times we don't know our jobs. Somebody tell us how to do something. We don't know the policy. We never read the AML directive. We never see it before. We don't know where it come from. That's just a lot of pages and we don't have time to read it, right? And so by now, I hope all of you would have gone into your institutions found your AML directive, and I know some companies say if it ain't applicable to you, but it should be applicable to everybody. You would have liaised with your compliance department to find out, yeah, what policy am I following, and this should be for every aspect of your job, not only for AML. Okay, you should be familiar with these things, and this is how you protect yourself. Okay, from being knowledgeable. Okay. Okay, good. Any more questions? So thank you very much again, Mackenzie. You get
Yes,
Mackenzie in
for
your
that.
network. She's very valuable, very knowledgeable, very valuable. This is the type of people I need in my network. Very good. Okay, and make sure that you are beneficial to her. We don't want to just stress out every time she needs something, but networking is a two-way street. And so because you know she gives you some legal, advice on the fly, you make sure that um you return the favor, or you do some other need she may have. And when it's time for her to charge and she say, this is my cutoff time, or this is my limit, and I charge $250 an hour, you make sure that you patronize her. Okay, and that's how you keep the network strong and going. Okay. Okay, good. Any more questions on the orders?
Yes, just one question, because I remember, I can't remember which class it was, but I know you were saying briefly just now about, I guess, like how almost persons could almost be hidden in a system.
Yeah.
So my whole question is, if we've seen that like terrorists before and groups that are trying to hide money from criminal activity, if we've seen that that's a pattern that they usually establish, then shouldn't the systems be updated with that to look out for things like that, to flag things like that with like hyphens and so forth?
But you said the operative word, if we've seen that. Have you watched Dirty Money?
No, I need to watch it.
Okay, so until we discussed it, you didn't know it happened. None of you knew that until you watched it or I explained it, right? And this is what happens. We don't keep abreast. We are not knowledgeable. We are not in a network where people could say, hey, this happened at SPC. We ain't having these conversations. We ain't going to school and when we get training, be mad. Right? We mad and we wait until the last day till we get right up and threaten to get fired before we complete it. Correct? And so a lot of people do not know these things. Okay, and so this is why you take training seriously. A lot of people just, they come to class because they have to pass, or because work say, I ain't have nothing on my CV, and a lot of people, places closing down. So, let me come to school and get something on my CV before this place closed down because it's a pandemic. A lot of people don't care. They don't pay attention. And they just really want to pass at any minute. But once I pass, I don't need to understand, and I definitely don't need to go back to my institution and share my knowledge or update the system. So this is why, and what I'm saying is you cannot do everything. This is why you go in a network. And so there's somebody who is very studious, you may be able to lean on their information, but we just don't read. We don't keep ourselves up to date, and so we don't know. So unless one of you who now know goes and shares this to say, I watched this on TV and this possibly could happen, you could go back into work, say, oh my God, that was TV. You so conspiracy theorists or whatever they say, that ain't gonna really happen here until you check, and then you are shocked. And so let us stop being shocked. Let us commit to keeping abreast of the newspaper. Let us not just show up to class because we need something on our resume or we just want to pass. And let us actually, apply some of the things that we learned, go back and check. This is the last class before we have review. Have all of you gone and sort out your AML directive? This is a compliance class. Have all of you done it? Silence? Just a conversation?
Oh, not as yet.
Okay, and so this is what is wrong. And so therefore, what are the hackers and the scammers are doing? What they doing? They reading in fact, they reading the policy. When I was at an industry update, when these laws, the 2018 came out, you know what one lady stood up and said? Sir Attorney General, can you please let the industry get the laws first before you send it out to the public? Because what is happening right now is laws come out. We already overwork and underpaid. Then these laws are 100 pages each that we don't even understand. Now you having the training, and by this time, the scammer who already have their network, already have their lawyer, then explain to them this is what they can do, explain to them what system will be in place, and explain to them how to beat the system, and we ain't even read the policy yet. We don't even know what to do yet, and they already know how to beat the system and infiltrate the system. Because they have more time than us. And they have a common goal that we want this money. When we defraud this bank, we can get this $1 million. Okay, so they ask, send it to the industry before you send it to the public. But if the industry gets it and does nothing with it, right, then what happens? And so they are becoming rich off our ignorance and our ability to be overworked and our negligence. So this is why we're here, to ensure that we are not negligent. We are aware. We have proper controls in place, and we know, hey, where's the control for this in the AML directive? Where's the control for that in the operational manual? How do you do enhanced due diligence? Go and read the enhanced the AML policy or the account opening policy. We don't even know where to go and get this information, and this is why we constantly get defrauded, but now we are going to go to jail as well. Because the laws have changed and they have to be enforced. And internationally, we are being watched. And of course, you see, we had 4 politicians brought before the courts, 3 already off. So who you think going to jail? If Elmer Campbell's son on his second, he defrauded BPL allegedly. Now he defrauded tourism allegedly. You think he's going to jail? If that was me or you, what was going to happen?
We want to get Rick across the coal.
Oh, and what? Internationally, they need numbers to say they putting these people before the court, right? So international pressure is there. So we are only getting paraded. We going to jail. So this is why we're here, to be educated, to know who is our knowledge source, where we get this information, and go out there and do your work and do it properly so you protect yourself.
But even in that Elmer Campbell case, they were able to trace that a 2020 BMW was purchased, and I believe a condo or something in Treasure Cove. But I didn't hear anything of those items being freezed or anything to that effect.
Okay, not only that, I forget the guy named DeSalis or something like that, who's do the air freshener
Curry.
Something Curry. Dialis. He just came up with this big business, and he in every financial institution putting the air freshener in the bathroom, right? and he flies on a private jet. You all know that? You're talking about BMW and a condo. He has a private jet that he zooms around in, all off an air freshener that he gives to the financial institutions. And so that's another thing what we are normally responsible for. We are normally the privacy officer. There's normally a clear desk policy, right? And we mad when we have the shred, we leaving papers on the printer. How you think they defraud these places? They walk right there in the night, the drawers ain't locked, gone right in the drawers and steal all this information and is able to get a second signature or a check would have an automated signature on it or what have you, just from negligence. The Securities Commission was defrauded because somebody left the checkbook in the car and the car wash guy stole it up to some $800,000.
I have a question about that because when I was looking through these cases, I saw this Jeremy Pinder guy's name came up, and I was trying to figure out the connection. Like, I could understand with the Elmer Campbell case, yeah, she's a lawyer in terms of Ministry of Tourism. I don't know, it could have been said that she was the lawyer for them. So I got that possible connection. But with the car wash guy, I was like, how is it, like, how did he get tied to the Securities Commission and
because
get $850,000?
because people don't do, everybody you have as a vendor, you have to do a world check on. Okay? Jeremy robbed Central no, Royal Bank in Eleuthera 10 years ago and got away. After he did that, he then went and worked the Cable Bahamas. So he was going around. Every time I saw him in that Cable Bahamas bus, I was like, oh God, who let Jeremy in their house? Because I can tell you some stuff missing. Okay? Connection. Then next thing I know, he have a car wash, a whole car wash with workers and everything at the Securities Commission. I said, Lord, help these people. And so therefore, when I saw him, and all the people from Eleuthera saw him in the newspaper, they laughed. They said, by God, come on. You even write down to the car wash person, you have to word check or you have to do use your clear desk policy. You cannot go and get your car cleaned, leave the work laptop in it, leave all these papers laying around. We don't take it seriously. And we are very reactive people. And so therefore, because these things happen, now we check. So every week, you all know outside, you all have somebody cleaning your cars, right? To your financial institutions. Do a little Google search. Ask them to put word check these people out. And you never know. Today, I'm a law-abiding citizen. Tomorrow, I can't feed my family. It's a pandemic. I lose my job. I may go there and steal. So you have to check these people monitoring. Remember the statutory requirement. You check these people to make sure that they legit and they don't have any criminal records, or you make sure clear desk even if they legit. So you don't be the person who can't steal the check out of or copy the signature from or the laptop. And all of us um guilty of that. I know when I worked in Royal Bank, they told me we have a laptop assigned to you, and your car is like my trunk is a Jeep, so my trunk isn't, I can't even lock it in a Jeep. When you go and valet park your car, do you know if that valet park person steals Royal Bank's computer, you will be liable? So I said, okay, come, let me leave Royal Bank. I cannot come to your party, or I can't take the computer home tonight because I can't go away home and drop this computer. But we are not aware of these things. And I was mad. But now I understand why, because they've been hit through those computers many times. Okay? And I had the whole Royal Bank Caribbean on my system. So that was you had to be very careful. So clear desk policy. In the night, lock your offices. Check the printer. And there's a privacy officer that's supposed to come around. They don't always do it, but your job is to ensure that they don't have any work to do, because sometimes they write you up because you didn't shred or you didn't lock away something. Okay, so don't wait. People are desperate. Okay, the cleaners, your staff members, your CEO, trust in God only. Your best friend, my best teller, was the one who was stealing. I cried. Okay, I gave her all the employee of the year, employee this, every incentive, and she was the one who steal $80,000 from a blind man.
Wow.
Okay, so
Terrible.
you never know what people going through. Don't take it seriously. Don't be the victim. And that's the regulator. You would think Jeremy would say, "Oh, I know I could get in trouble. This ain't even the bank. This the regulator." No, $850,000. Go on.
So, okay, was this a check? This was several checks or one big check?
I'm not certain. I don't know. It's in the newspaper. You could go read it.
Because
I don't know exactly what he did.
Because they just said that a fraudulent Securities Commission check. I don't see anything. Like, I think with the Rackley case, they stated that it was 9 checks. But if it's just one check for a large amount, like, shouldn't that go off in the bank? Like, when he's trying to deposit the check? I don't understand.
Well, why? And he's probably cleaned their cars too. And but everybody overwork. It's a pandemic. Everybody worrying, but who would give them corona? You think anybody following procedures right now? This the best time. They scammers work on emotions. They study. They do a lot of research. They know government payday. Everybody overwork. work, it's a good time to go in. If they ain't paying as much attention, or there wouldn't be as much red flags. And then some of these banks don't even have the proper systems to spit this information out at you so you know what to look for. Then, like I said, we didn't pay attention in training. And then we have a system, but we don't know how it works. So all sorts of things. And these people know this. And they would have worked in the bank before. Look at this guy who just defrauded First Caribbean. First Caribbean in February. You could tell me now, this man robbed all your ATMs. Every ATM in Nassau should have been put on a list, and you change the code. They didn't change the one at Breezes. Nobody remember that one because the hotel closed. Really, he could go back and get $10,000 more. That bank should be fine. Go ahead.
All right, that ATM that he stole money from the second time, that was actually a Scotiabank ATM, not First Caribbean.
So how did he get the code? How did he get the code?
Well, obviously, he probably had an inside person at one of the armor companies.
Oh. Okay, so then some other people need to be arrested then.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. But I'm just saying these the type of things that happen. Okay, but if somebody hit you twice, or every other bank, and that's why you watch the news. Because when you see this happen at CIBC, you increase your controls. It's a pandemic, and like I said, even if you increase your controls and you can do everything, right? The people still find a way. That's their job. That's how they live. He can't work nowhere no more. He done been paraded across the courts. What else he can do except thief? So you have to protect yourself. Like Jeremy done hit several people several times, and I guess he's out on bail now. I don't think he's trying to find a job. And it's a pandemic. So just be careful, okay? Just be careful. Because you know how the court systems work. And if you don't have $20,000 to get to seal, don't waste your time. Just go to jail. Don't go waste your time. Okay? Because the rich people can pay their way out of these things. We can't. So we have to be knowledgeable and we have to protect ourselves. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Any more questions on court orders? And again, like I said, don't only go with the definitions, go with this is my story, or this is my example. Okay? Okay, good. Chapter 8, the rules. And again, a lot of people like to answer this question about the various rules of the board, of the AML compliance team, of senior management, and they write a lot of fluff. They bottle everything into one group, and they write a lot of fluff. So please, if you're going to answer this question, please write what the book say, and then you can add, more relevance to it. But don't mix it up, and don't say everybody is do one, and try to ensure that you know the various tasks. Another question on training. A lot of people like to answer that, and when they get to that, the statutory requirement training, they bother. I would ensure all my employees do this. No, training has various categories. New employees should learn this. Back office staff should learn that. Managers should learn this. And then we talked about the board also having training. So ensure you give relevance so you can get full points. You don't want you getting 5 or 4 points because taken off because you didn't, put it in the correct order, or, put the task below the right role. Okay, so the role of the board of directors. Who is my next reader? Who doesn't have the 10%? Everybody straight, everybody going into this exam.
Me.
10%. Who's that? Anthea?
Martika.
Okay, Martika, let it rip.
You said we're reading chapter 7. Well, this is chapter 8.
Yeah, chapter 8.
Okay.
Just two or three pages.
Okay. Compliance systems.
The first stage in The first stage in designing an appropriate AML compliance system is to define responsibilities so that there is no doubt about who is accountable for what. The role of the Board of Directors. The primary responsibility for delivering compliance rests with the board and senior management, although this can be delegated to unit or department heads on a day-to-day basis. These responsibilities should be addressed in the job descriptions of senior management. The board should be provided with management information about AML compliance risks, which is a prerequisite of effective corporate governance and risk management. The board is responsible for deciding whether the AML framework is adequate and that it provides the level of comfort required. The role of the compliance department. The board looks to the compliance department to support it by providing oversight and reassurance through an effective internal AML compliance and risk control framework. The board expects the AML compliance department to design, implement, and monitor the AML framework while relying on the business as a whole to operate in accordance with it. The role of the AML compliance team. The AML compliance department has a pivotal role in the management of AML compliance risk. The team is an independent function that identifies, assesses, advises on, monitors, and reports on the institution's compliance risks. The AML compliance team is also responsible for the following in relation to the management of money laundering risk: identifying the AML compliance risks, determining the risk appetite of the business, identifying what systems of control should be put in place, determining the processes that should be implemented to review the AML risk management systems. The role of the Money Laundering Reporting Officer, or MLRO. This is an approved person by the regulator and registered with the FIU. This is indicative of the seriousness with which role is viewed by the regulatory authorities. The main responsibilities of the role are to receive internal STRS, evaluate internal STRS, and
STRs.
yes, STRS, sorry, access information available from internal sources and web-based information, determine whether a STR has merit and whether or not to report, make external reports to the FIU or law enforcement agencies, file internal disclosures, act as the main point of contact for law enforcement, act without reference or influence from management. The role of internal audit. The role of internal audit is to primarily prevent, detect, or investigate money laundering or financial crime. It is an independent function and helps an organization by bringing a systematic approach to evaluate and approve the effectiveness of risk management control and governance. The regulators, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas, the Insurance Commissions, the Gaming Board, and then the source documents, the Central Bank of the Bahamas AML CTF guidelines, Proceeds of Crime Act 2018, the Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2018, the Financial Transactions Reporting Act 2018, the Financial Transactions Reporting Regulations 2018, the Financial Transactions Reporting Wire Transfer Regulations 2018, Travelers Currency Declaration Act 2015 as amended, and the Anti-Terrorism Act 2018.
Okay, good. Very, very good. And so that's it. That's it in terms of the introduction to AML and terrorism, anti-money laundering, and counterterrorism financing. Um, by now, you should know if you can deal with the reading, if you can handle the comprehensiveness from what you've read, if you can go and do research and then make a decision. And if you decide then that's yes, then I'll see you in intermediate and then on to to ICA. But again, like I said, if you decide that it's not for me, I'm glad to just know the basics, and create some awareness. Again, this is applicable to all functions within the financial services sector. Um, I do hope to see all of you again. If not in this class and other classes, but like I said, continuously network, keep abreast of what's going on, and keep abreast of the newspaper and industry developments. Okay, and back to the chapter 8, the board of directors again. The board, a lot of people feel like, what does the board really do? They come um 4 times a year, once per quarter. They have a board meeting, and what they do is they delegate their authorities to senior management, the CEO, the head of compliance, the head of operations, the head of finance. Um, what happens when there's a board report is these senior managers stand before the board and they describe to them, or they give them details on what has happened during the quarter, and then they get them to say yay or nay, we agree, and approve the entire transaction. So they delegate their authority, but even though it's delegated, just like an outsourced function, you can outsource the function, you can never outsource the responsibility. So if anything was to happen, it should fall on the board. But of course, once that falls on the board, unless the board is removed or what have you, then that would then hence trickle down and fall on senior management and then on anybody else. So they outsource their function, but they cannot outsource their responsibility. Ultimately, it's them. And that's a multiple choice question on the exam. It's very tricky. People are confused as to who is responsible. Ultimately, compliance is not responsible for um, the financial institution to remain compliant, or any systems in place, or AML. The board is responsible. Compliance carries it out on behalf of the board, but the board is responsible. Okay. Any other questions on rules? Claire's Mud?
I just have a question, not about rules, but for the intermediate class, is Thursday the only day that the class is offered, Thursday mornings? Is that right?
The persons complained that Saturday morning was not convenient for them. So I think the next day that the institute had available was Thursday. So
how are they?
I'm waiting on the schedule now from Miss Dean. But if you are going to register, if you just tell her that Saturday is convenient for me, she may move it back to Saturday.
But I mean, I don't know, because I'm only one person, but I'm thinking that most persons would prefer the weekend because they have to work, because 9
yeah,
to 12.
but it's Thursday evening, 6 to 9.
Oh, they're saying 9 to 12.
No. See, that's the Saturday time.
Oh, they didn't change the times. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I'll let her know that, but no, it's 6 to 9 p.m. tonight, Thursday evening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Then.
And if you flip right over in the book to case 1, there are some questions there if you want to practice. It says anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing. There's a hand in water, and they say there's a practical guide for accountants, estate agents, precious metal and precious stone dealers, and trust companies. So normally, I mean, you could do all of it if you like for practice and see how some of the multiple choice questions will be worded, or you can just do the one. I normally say do the one for trust and company services. The answers are in section 5. So practice first to see if you get it, and then go to section 5 to see if you come up with the same answers. Okay, if you have time and you want to practice. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? So we've digested all of this information. We understand it, and we could now explain it in an exam setting.
Yep.
Yes, I do hope so.
No, okay, good. So at least I hope that we have gained more knowledge than what we came here with. We found it interesting. Our awareness grew, and we are out there being knowledge seekers and networking and staying current and abreast. And basically, like I say, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like I don't show up to work every day on pins and needles. I know the risk involved, but I also know that I cannot eliminate risk, and so therefore I don't try to. I'm just sure that I know the policies and procedures. I know what systems I have. I know what protection I have, and I know what I need to do manually. And then I leave all the rest, and I just show up to work and I do my best every day. Okay, and that's basically all you could do in any environment or situation. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So if there are no more questions or concerns, we will stop there. You can, like I said, continue on with answering the multiple choice questions and then checking your answers for the remainder of the class, or you could leave it and do it later. Again, it's just for your practice. And I will see you guys next week. Everybody in there, two pieces of homework, because again, if it's not in, your last piece isn't in by next week Friday, that just means that your chances of getting a full 30% to go into the exam are lowered. So take advantage. Like I say, everybody, the 5%, the 10%. I have the list for the 5%. If you know you're not on it, you have 1 week left. Um, the 5%, the 10%, most persons participated. I was pleased. I would like a little bit more feedback, but I was pleased overall with persons who went out there and did some research. So very good. Um, and like I say, do your homework. Everybody should expect to get 100% on the homework because it's open book. And again, just to show that you understand it, if you were in an exam setting, this is how I would answer this question. So pick your, from your review sheet, pick your 7 questions and make sure you have those 10 points next week. Come prepared to discuss and tell me how you would answer this question. And we'll discuss it to see if anybody has another point of view, or is it if it's relevant, or because of course everybody likes to start off with their 3 stages of money laundering for every question, whether it's terrorist financing or court orders or whatever, and you don't get any points for that. So come with your ideas, and we'll discuss them to make sure that everybody's successful. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Noted.
Okay, good. So everybody stay safe and have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you next
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
do the
You
same.
too.
Okay.
You do the same.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.